Welcome to the Creative Impact Podcast. I'm your host, Rachel Caldwell, and I'm so happy you're here. Each episode, I take some time to chat with fellow artists about life, faith, and the impact of the arts. So excited to be here with you today, Jordan. So for those that are watching or listening, I'm here with Jordan EuDaly, also known as Jordan Haley with Jordan Haley Art. So excited to have you here today, Jordan. Yes, I love it. I was going to say, those that are watching, you can see some beautiful art in the backdrop of Jordan's screen. Yeah. But if you are not watching, you may want to head over to YouTube and check it out, or Spotify. So you can see the visuals as well. But yeah, welcome to the show, Jordan.
Thank you. Thank you, Rachel, for having me. I'm so giddy to be here and having the chance to connect with you.
Yeah, such a gift. And we were just chatting before we started recording, but thank you to Hannah Anderson for connecting us.
Yes.
And
yeah, we love you, Hannah.
We do. Yeah, Hannah
She's on my wall, a beautiful photo of her up above us. Yes.
That's so sweet. I love that. And recently you all were doing a collaborative project with Hannah's big production. And I got to watch your piece, actually, or the piece that was the collaboration virtually. So that was really fun to get to.
I love hearing that.
See it. Yes, that was really powerful. Just really, really cool. So yeah, excited to kind of hear more about your journey and maybe even a little bit about that show, but just in general, like your why and kind of what has gotten you to this point as well. So
yeah. I'm excited to share.
Yeah. So just for everyone that's listening or watching, so Jordan, you have two amazing children and you are married to, is it Brent?
Yes, it is.
Love it.
Brent. Yes.
Brent. And so married, 2 children, and then currently living in Eureka Springs, Arkansas, which I'm super excited to hear more about because y'all have started building towards like I know you worded it really well.
We call it a treehouse village.
Yes.
Yeah, I picture like the Ewok village from Star Wars. We'll see. Hopefully it can be that cool, but
that would be incredible.
Yeah. Yes.
Whatever it turns out to be, I'm sure it's going to be beautiful. And just the concept of a treehouse village is so beautiful and really, really fun. And so your husband is a toy maker?
He is. I sometimes call him Geppetto, and he doesn't like that, but I think it's adorable. He's like, no. He's, yeah.
Yes. And then what's really fun and going to be a lot of our conversation today is you are an artist, visual artist, and I love that you call it mark making and getting to just create and do fun commissions and so do you want to just, maybe we'll start there. Do you want to dive into how did you get into, I guess, like the visual art side, and when did you first really consider yourself an artist?
Yeah, absolutely. I have these memories of being a kid. I was always a crafter. I was obsessed with like Lisa Frank stickers, always loved color. Do you remember those?
Yes.
So good. And just loved like scrapbooking, making, working with my hands. And then I watched my mom go through her own art making, mark making journey. Really, it was when I was in high school and college, she started painting pretty seriously. And I have this memory of her working really small, and then just like her art would grow bigger. It would get more beautiful. It would grow in color. And I just was really inspired by her journey, just watching what art meant to her. I think it really inspired my own. So I think when I studied nonprofit and theology in college, and I honestly never took an art class, never really considered it. I've always loved storytelling, so I took a photography class, but I got burnt out in my early 20s, working in some social service nonprofit spaces. And
Mm-hmm.
I mean, a big burnout. Like I moved back home and with my parents went through, I call it like a mini depression. I just felt like I had to recenter and ask some big, hard questions. And I think I found art after that sort of as a place to rest, and like
Mm.
creative self-expression just became this playful space again, you know, getting a sketchbook and painting and doing these creative little projects. And I slowly started taking that craft more seriously. I felt like I developed the muscles and developed the discipline of showing up for it. And
Mm,
it just
yes.
started to get my attention more and more. And I fast forward, um, I got married and I found myself in some job transition. I saw this retreat that was happening in Zion National Park, and it was
Ooh.
costly, it was expensive, but I told my husband, like, I just feel like I'm supposed to go to this. And I
Yeah.
was on this trip with 40 other artists from around the world, and I felt like I stepped into this bubble where I got to see these people who call themselves artists like take their work really seriously. You know, they would work in their sketchbooks and they had these cute little travel paint sets that I also had, but I thought I kind of had them for fun, and I did, but I realized like, oh, they work in their sketchbooks and then scale up. And it just like I felt like I stepped into this world where I was like, I want to do what they're doing. And so I came home from that trip and I felt like I started calling myself an artist,
Mm.
and really realized like that's a career path I could choose if I wanted that. And ever since then, that trip was about 7 years ago for me, and ever since then I've um, been just like really applying myself in this craft and in this way. So
Yes. That's such a
thanks for asking.
beautiful, yeah, it's such a beautiful moment, I feel like, or experience to realize, okay, this could be like a career, this could
Yeah.
be what I do,
Yeah.
more than a hobby, which a hobby is great as well,
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
I love that kind of
Yeah.
journey that you were taken on and
Yeah.
seeing it happen in your mom too, which is a neat
Yeah.
connection that you guys have. I'm guessing at this point. So,
Yes. Yes. It is. It happened really slowly and organically. And there really wasn't this like, yeah, one day, 1 week, 1 month shift. It just was, you know, I was always the kid in grade school and in high school that was drawing pretty pictures for my friends. Those little
yeah.
lettering and typography was always, you just kind of assume growing up that everyone's good at all these things. And so it
Hmm.
honestly wasn't until my adulthood when I realized like, oh, these parts of me I've had for a long time.
Hmm.
And that, yeah, it starts to feel exciting, I think, as we get older and learn like, oh, this is something that lights me up specifically. And so
Right.
yeah, I love
Yes,
that.
that's so true. Yeah, that you see kind of those themes or threads that have been there your whole life, but
Hmm.
didn't realize were kind of a gift in
Yeah.
and what you have to bring and offer to the world. So, yes, that's so neat. And kind of on the same similar vein, I'm curious to hear about how kind of just the idea of like creativity has sort of evolved for you over time, either like your whole life or maybe from
Yeah.
that point where you decided like, okay, I'm going to pursue this more officially maybe, or not really officially, but like
Yeah.
seriously, pursuing it more
Yeah.
seriously. And how have you
Yeah.
kind of changed in your perception or understanding of creativity?
Yeah. That's such a fun question. I feel like I've always been like a little bit squirrely, like a little bit of a dabbler in all the things.
I
And
feel
I
that
think
too.
that's, yes, it's it's fun. It makes for, I think when we have curiosity embedded in us, it's like I wouldn't change a thing because it invites us into different spaces, right? And so I think I have to giggle at that question because I think about the variety, I would say, of rooms I feel like I've been invited into or like stepped into. My journey has definitely morphed. As I mentioned, I felt like I started in typography, graphic design, lettering, and I would like write and address wedding invitations. This was,
Yeah.
7 to 10 years ago. And I did get burnt. I got burnt out. You know, those spaces are pretty rigid. And whether there's high expectation, it was hard for me and exhausting. And so I think my self-expression found more comfortable spaces. And I feel like the thread all the way through has always been painting for me.
Mm. Yeah.
But I have this, I grew up and I'm really comfortable in the digital world too. I like both the digital and the analog spaces. And I think my
Mhm.
whole life I'll mesh them. Um, because what I feel like I want to be is a surface designer and a surface pattern designer. I would love to see my art on more fabric and wallpaper and apparel and goods. And I play and I
Mm.
dabble in that space. But I'm not quite there yet. And even with AI and these robots, I don't know. I'm like, I don't know. Maybe that shouldn't be my world or niche. So I've played in the last 10 years everything from murals to designing stationery to putting my art on gift wrap and tissue paper. And um, really, I think the life places I find myself in are where I feel
Mhm.
like I infuse my creativity, right? And so even when I just became a mom about 5 years ago and was having babies, I was like, ooh, I'd find a company online where I could put my art on a burp cloth. And I was like, it's like going with whatever season of life. And I still do that now because even my little girls, they're 3 and 5, almost 5. And so I
Aw.
designed one of them some leggings the other day. And so
Ah,
it's sort
so
of
fun.
like when I don't, or when I can't find something in the marketplace that I would like, I'm just kind of have the attitude of like, well, I'll just design my own.
Yeah, I'll just
It's a
create
fun challenge.
it.
Yeah. I love the way creativity. So I'd say I always thought creativity had to be like these really specific lanes of our lives. And the older I get, the more I realize like, oh, like our entire life story can be
Mm.
creative. So I kind of enjoy like identifying as like an outlier or a rule breaker. Um,
Mhm.
because
Mhm.
yeah, I'm just starting to play in those lanes. And I just want to think outside the box and like push the limits and see like what are the ways that are unique. I mean, a small example, you know, if you have a picture frame in your house, like I started painting the mats and I just thought that was really cool. Like I would pair that with
Yeah.
photography. It's not super original, but it made me feel excited about the photo all of a sudden. And I guess I'm kind of a maximalist a
I love
little
it. Yeah.
bit. And I like the marriage of minimalism and maximalism too. And anyway, I'm just rambling a little bit, but
No,
that was fun to answer.
yes, that's so cool just to hear kind of your journey and thought process behind that and how I think it makes complete sense that our season of life is
Yeah.
informing our creativity and where we're kind of investing energy during that time. So totally makes
Mhm.
sense to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I feel like I kind of skipped over some of your story and journey, but it
Yeah.
sounds like you and your husband have also kind of been on a journey. So you guys lived overseas for a little while, right? And like
Yeah.
took off and got to go on an adventure. And I'm really curious to hear a little bit more about that and then how
Yeah.
that sort of shaped where you are now and the
Hmm.
decisions that you guys have made leading up to that.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks for that, Rachel. I'm trying to think of exact timeline because we had been married for a little bit and we were both in some job transition and we sort of looked at each other and we didn't have kids at the time. And, this was about 6, 7 years ago. And we were kind of like, what if we just like we were renting and our lease was up and we were like getting really excited at the thought of just packing up and traveling. And so I just remember going to the internet and just like typing in like New Zealand.
Yes.
We did a little. prep, and we camped in the East US for about a month. And that was honestly a really good experience. And I'm glad we did that before we traveled abroad, because I'll out myself. I brought way too much stuff. I feel like we fought a lot because he was like, why did you bring all it was like a good test run for me. And I realized like I
Right.
didn't need all of those items. I think I was just like clinging to my comforts and clinging to
Mhm.
control. So then we jumped abroad, and yeah, for about 8 months, we visited some family in Spain. We spent about a month in Thailand, and then we spent most of our time, we were in New Zealand for about 6 months, and it was life changing. It was
Yeah.
such a powerful experience. There's so much I could say, but the short of it is, it did give us imagination and conversation and a foundation for the life we wanted to build together. We used this platform called Workaway, similar to woofing, where you basically stay in people's homes and land and their spaces for free, and then you're offering a few hours a day of services. Maybe you're working in their garden, or you're helping them, their family, cook or clean or work on social media or something.
That's really
Um,
cool. I don't
it was
think I had
so
heard of that. That's
fun.
really a neat setup.
It was amazing because we got to embed ourselves into their culture in a really intimate way.
Hmm.
And we did probably 5 or 6 different stays in both the North and the South Island. And so we just got to, yeah, we just learned a lot about ourselves, like made a lot of awkward mistakes, but really got to know people who were running hospitality businesses is what stood out to us. And so this amazing couple that runs an organic cafe, and a bed and breakfast, um, they just invited us into their world of whimsy. They had created this space and just kept adding their creative skill sets, and they've been doing that for 40 years. And so
Wow.
to just be around these people who have built li- creative lives, we were just like, what could it look like for us to return home and buy some land and build in the same direction for like a really long time, like just using our
Right.
skill set. And so it gave us so much imagination. And I'll be honest, it was scary. We landed back in Kansas City, and we were working with a life coach at the time. What was scary was she was saying like, hey, why are you stalling, like why not jump in? And we were like, okay. And I just feel like sometimes in life we have to just take that risk, and then the rest works itself out. And I feel like that's what happened. We just started making some big moves in the direction of our dreams, and opportunities just began opening up. And so what that looked like for us, we put our house on the market. It sold. We bought a trailer. We lived in a
Yeah.
travel trailer with our 2 little kids for about 18 months while we erected this metal building that we actually live in now. It's our workplace and our home. And
Hmm.
it was crazy and beautiful all in the same time. So the metal building sits on our property, and our 10 acres goes straight back. It's like the shape of a rectangle, a big rectangle. And so we want to build some tree houses, back on our own property, hopefully, in the next 5 years. And so we're just slowly making those moves, and it's really, it feels good. It's been an invigorating season,
Yeah.
to do this alongside of my husband Brent and our 2 girls. And yeah, I would say my heart truly is in my painting, and then Brent really loves his manufacturing journey with his toy business. And the hospitality space is where I feel like our skill sets and our passions come together. And so we're really excited to raise our children up sort of in this creative, it's a gray line of work and play for us. It
Yes.
always
Sounds
has
like
been.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I bet that'll be really, already is, I'm sure, just really fun for them as they're growing up to have those experiences and, be able to have space to explore and to
Yeah.
create and to come up with stories and things like that. And I can just envision
Yeah.
a lot of really amazing memories being made along the way. So,
We hope
yeah.
so. We hope so. I think of the word balance, and I'm not so sure we even know what that looks like, but like for example, they read about the beach and they see it on shows and in books, and they're like, "Can we go to the beach?" And we didn't make it this summer, and I'm like, "Okay, yeah." They just we can get in this lane where we really love what we do, and I think we have to just be careful to remember to like find some rest and find some balance, take our kids to the
Yes.
beach. So,
Uh-huh.
yeah.
Yeah, it definitely is that balancing act in life, isn't it?
Yeah,
For
definitely.
sure. Yeah. So, something that you said actually really does stand out, the idea of how that couple had kind of created a space and a place of whimsy and just,
Mhm.
self-expression and being able to be hospitable. And I'm curious how you have seen the value of
Yeah.
spaces and creating spaces where you really can, express yourself and
Mm,
almost be like your fullest self. I don't know if that
yeah.
is exactly the way to say it,
Yeah.
but if that makes sense.
Sure. Sure it does. I'm absolutely tracking. A couple things come to mind when you say that and ask. There's this YouTube sensation. She's super adorable. When the algorithm just gets you just right and these things pop up in
Yes,
your feed and you're like, how did I get here? I have no idea, but I'm here and I'm so glad I'm. That's how I
exactly.
feel about this woman, Jonna Jinton, JonnaJinton. She's this darling Swedish woman, and she vlogs about her life in the middle of nowhere, Sweden. And why do I bring her up? She's just really creative with her whole life too, and she just renovated a neat structure that's her creative studio, and you go on this journey with her, and I feel like I feel the same way. She says it really eloquently, just like that. It's like where her soul can be and her soul can thrive, and it's just a space where she can be held and carried. I feel like I like my own favorite space right now where I'm getting to feel this is where I am right now with you. It's my own studio, and
Yeah.
it's hard for me to have words for it. I feel like, yeah, the way structure can just like provide for our needs. Even the other day I got this lounge chair off Facebook Marketplace because I realized I didn't have like a comfortable place to just land and sit in my own studio. And I really value rest, and I sort of pride myself in my own business that a lot of my work comes from an overflow of rest. And I
Mm.
realized, like, if I'm not even valuing that, how will people feel that? Or how can I invite others into that? So I think about that a lot. I think about how space can, even from like a systems function perspective, like when we're surrounded by, even as a visual artist, a mark making artist, it's like I can feel the difference in my output of when I lived in my little house and I was working at my dining room table. It was almost like my body was just like this, and I felt like I couldn't take up that much space. As opposed to now, I'm like, I look out and there's woods, and I can hear owls and see deer, and I can stretch my body, and I have skylights, and I just feel like I'm in partnership with nature, and I want this for everyone who wants it. I think,
Yes.
going on to a little bit of a different thought, but when you asked, I thought about how humbling and hard it was when we traveled abroad to be a receiver, because so much of my personality, I like being that hospitality person that's like, hey, come in and let me give you a cup of coffee. Like, let me provide for you. And it
Mm.
was so good for me to just like have nothing and like have the backpack on my back. We did buy a little car. I mean, we were able to get around, but just like the ways these people would cook like gourmet meals for us and just say like, come
Wow.
on in, rest, receive. Being a receiver, I think, takes humility, but it impacted me so much. And I feel like it shaped the ways we want to provide that for others in
Mm-hmm.
this village we're dreaming up. And even in my mark making, I've been calling myself an art guide lately because I
Ooh, I
realized,
love that.
oh, like I'm not here to teach these people technique. Like there's plenty of that out there. What lights me up is providing the space, sometimes the materials, like the encouragement, and just saying, your creative child lives in you. Here is the table to play and to get
Mm-hmm.
curious and to experiment and to make marks and to wrestle, because we live in this society where we can battle with perfectionism really easily. But I think if we can get past that, it gets really fun.
Yes. And in a way, I really appreciate and love that you don't necessarily have like the formal training and or schooling in
Yeah.
art, because I think that maybe creates more of a safe space for other people who maybe haven't as well, and
Yeah.
are a little more, nervous about
Yes.
breaking out of kind of the mold or whatever. So I think
Yeah.
that's really powerful that you have the ability to meet people like right where they are, and like you said, just create a space for them to open up and to try new things, take risks.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Thanks for
that's
saying that. Because, yeah, there's definitely this insecurity of like, oh, but who am I to do this? Like, I didn't go to art school. And there's definitely those voices that live there. But I do think you're right. And I'm starting to see value truly there. That my own self-taught story almost doesn't give me the language. My husband's always like, do you even know what you're doing when you're doing it? And he kind of pokes fun at me, and I'm like, no, but I'm like, pick the color that excites you. I don't know.
nice.
I do just come from a different angle, and I'm learning to embrace that rather than let it be a hindrance.
That's
So thanks for
beautiful.
naming that.
Yes. So as you are, I know that is a passion. I love how you mentioned being a guide for others, like an art guide.
Yes.
Any thoughts on how maybe people that are listening like can kind of tap into that creativity that is inside of us?
Yeah.
I know so many people are like, "Oh, I'm not an artist. I'm not creative." They just kind of shut it
Hmm.
down.
Yeah.
So I'm curious any encouragement you might have for those that are listening that find themselves maybe in that camp a little bit.
Yes. A couple things do come to mind. When we were abroad, what sort of launched me into stretching that discipline muscle, the 100-day creative challenge. I feel like this is kind
Ooh.
of a common thing we see on social media. And I just sort of launched myself. I just kind of made a commitment, that I'd make art for 100 days. That was a big deal to me. I'm not always a person of solid follow through. And I did it, meaning I just, started small. So a small sketchbook, a few materials, but it was really thrilling to I did post about it, but to go back and look at that work, because I can see the thread line of like my signature style even in those early days. And so if you need a launch point, if you're looking for launch point, the 100-day challenge is great. I would also just sincerely say to those people, you are invited to this table. I think sometimes we just don't believe that message in our heart, or we think it's for this like elite crew. And I just
Mm,
think that's BS. And
yeah.
I say that because in my early 20s, I met for coffee with a guy who was doing some lettering and typography. He was kind of in the career that I wanted to be in. And I was just like hungry for anything he would offer me, like advice. And he looked at me and he just said those words. He was like, "Look, like you're invited to this table." And that meant so
Wow.
much for me to hear. I've never forgotten that. I would also say, like, listen to that inner curiosity. I think, there's so many voices and so many messages of what to buy, what supplies to get. And I would say, push all that aside. One of my favorite things is just going in a for me as a visual artist, it's going in an art supply store and just finding a few little things. They don't have to be expensive, that just light me up, or a color, maybe it's a paint pen or a piece of paper that just feels exciting, and just going home and playing with these materials just because it feels good. And lastly, I would add, like, getting off of social media. I think it like didn't get big until right as I was graduating college.
Yeah.
And I think I'm just so relieved that I didn't have that in my life. And I feel for the younger generations that do. Like, of course, we get those dopamine kicks, and it can be an inspiring space.
Mhm.
However, I think there's only small portions of people's lives that that I think people actually post. And so I think I just want to encourage people. I think that can sometimes be a hard space when you're wanting to figure out, what's really in you. We live in just this loud, noisy world. So I would say get
Right.
quiet and lean in toward what really excites you. And there might be some surprises there.
Yes, that's such a good encouragement. And it makes me think about how you and Brent, you guys like immersed yourselves in community with people who were kind
Yeah.
of living like just life, they're
Yeah.
just, you're
Yeah.
seeing everything in a way.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
that makes me think about how, with, like you said, with social media, we're seeing such a small little portion of
Mm-hmm.
people's lives. And,
Yep.
maybe how is there a small way that we can get connected in a real, like, in-person way with, I don't know, I'm just now
Mm-hmm.
coming up with this in my head, but connected in and like being fully
Yeah.
with people in their lives,
Yeah.
and seeing how that's lived out day to day rather than like the
Mm-hmm.
little tiny highlight reel that we get to watch.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
could be really interesting.
Yeah, for me in my life, it's that place you hear this term called flow state. It's
Hmm.
when, for me, that's when, like, I'm so immersed in what I'm doing, and it's the gift of being present. For me, that's mark making. It's painting on at my desk. I typically put my phone in a box, or I turn it off so it's not a distraction. Oftentimes it's in silence. Sometimes I'll put music on, but but you just forget time exists.
Yeah.
You're just transported into this world where it's your creative soul, and I want that for everyone who wants it. It's there waiting. But we have to build. It didn't come right away for me. We do have to build those muscles a little bit. So even just 5, 10, 15 minutes. And Julia Cameron, author of the book The Artist Way,
Mm.
she talks about both morning pages, where you write longhand 3 pages journaling in the mornings every day. She talks about that rhythm, but one I also love that she encourages is an artist date. So simply taking yourself and on a date where you just allow yourself to be creative. And so for some, that might mean a stroll through the garden, or like going to a coffee shop and doodling, or just going someplace in your town or city and having no agenda. So consider that too.
That's a great practice and idea to that would be pretty easy to implement.
Yeah.
There's not like a whole lot of barrier to start. You just
Sure. Yes.
make the decision and
Yep.
go do it. I love
Yep.
that.
Yeah.
Yes. So, kind of going a little bit of a different direction, but I feel like has been a bit of a theme is probably for both of our lives, actually,
Mm-hmm.
and with many artists or creatives, there's not really a clear roadmap for,
Mm.
okay, take this step next, and then the goal is to end up here. It's like
Yeah.
kind of building as you go in a way. And I love though that like for you guys, there was sort of a vision that you were able to kind of have before you as a couple as
Mm-hmm.
well, which is great
Mm-hmm.
to have some sort of a vision for what you're headed towards. But how
Yeah.
has this journey been, not really having a roadmap or someone that's exactly walked this path before?
Yeah.
And, you I don't know, how do you wrestle with the reality of no clear path as an artist?
Yeah. Oh man, that's a big one. And I hated that reality in the beginning, especially in my early 20s, mid 20s. Um I I okay, that's a bit extreme. I mean, I'm my personality, I'm a little bit go with the flow. I'm a risk taker. Like, I am very curious by nature, but I like and loved immediate gratification. And it's like I just wanted to be someone who, like, I wanted to know. I'm the type of person I like won't watch a movie. I'll IMDb and or Rotten Tomatoes it just to make sure it's good. It's like I
Yes,
don't
yeah.
I don't want to step into something if I know it's going to mean failure or um and so yeah, I guess I'm a risk taker to an extent. But
Right.
so yeah, I think it felt exhausting. Sorry, lots of different thoughts are coming into my mind because I remember
It's
meeting
good.
with a really wise mentor figure in my mid 20s, and I kind of told him my woes and how I was struggling at like this admin 9 to 5 job. And he was like, I've listened. You just kind of sound like you should be a freelancer. And so I
Hmm.
say the pain point for me as someone who struggles a little bit being on the spectrum of some ADHD is definitely in my family story. I have struggled in the past to like follow through and get tasks done. I always admired the freelancers who were efficient, and I wouldn't say that's in my skill set, but then all of a sudden when I can find things that I like and am passionate about, um, that's when I can bring projects to life and to fruition. And so it's been challenging. I'll say, okay, the funny part for my life is when my kids came along about 5 years ago. That's when
Yeah.
I got way more efficient. And there's that quote about, um, oh, I'm butchering it, but you get something done when you just don't have enough time for it.
Hmm.
And so for me, all of a sudden, when I had these tiny babies that I'm tending to, I would work in these small little time frames. And so I would close gaps, and I would realize like how quickly I could do certain tasks. And so that's the irony for me, because I do feel like you tend to hear the opposite of women talking about when they had kids, they put their project on hold or like it slowed them down. And I'm the total opposite.
I
Like,
love that.
it really like blossomed for me. And in a lot of ways, my art journey grew right alongside my motherhood journey. And I've really invited my kids in, and I'm not always the best about it, but I want to invite them in more. And I do have a little side passion of being curious, like what does it look like to invite kids to the table a little more, because I think as a society we don't do that as well as we could be, and I'm challenged to
Mm.
practice that in my own world, right? And so even I'm on the journey now of just like setting up my studio in a way where they feel welcomed and they feel like
Mm.
they can work in this space too. But yeah, I really struggled going back to your original question, because I just wanted to step into like being an artist and all of a sudden like having a consistent income, and that is just not the case. Like, I'm not going to pretend this profession is easy. For me as an artist, and for many, it's variety, and there's typically many different income streams involved. I am a
Hmm.
bit stubborn. I'm determined to figure it out, but the whole hospitality business is even so we can bring some relief to our creative businesses, because Brent and I both always want our creative hearts to be able to produce and sing and do the things that we want to do. And so we're looking for those I even have a hospitality part-time job at a local winery that I'm at right now. And so we're making it work, because I always want to honor my creative child and not suffocate it. And I've learned this. I'm in my mid 30s now, and I have suffocated that creative and forced it to produce and forced it to make money. And I don't want to do that anymore because I learned that was not life-giving and that was not
Mm.
sustainable. And I'm in this
Yeah.
for the long haul. So um, I would say the wrestling has come from getting really honest with myself and with my family to ask ourselves, okay, how can we nurture these spaces of who we are, and what are our family's financial needs, and what does that look like in different seasons? So
Yeah, I love that. The honesty part of it, and also kind of like the honoring of that creativity, and how we're walking that out. And yeah, I think that's just a really great perspective on how can we find a little bit of that. We said
hmm
balance earlier too, but a
yeah,
balance of like the practical, being able to have enough income coming in, but then also having the freedom and flexibility to create and to,
yeah,
explore new things and new
yeah,
projects and all of that for sure.
yeah,
So I know you mentioned seasons of burnout,
yeah,
and yeah, I would really love to hear more about that season for you. I don't know
yeah.
if there's one in particular that stands out, or if you have had multiple
hmm
experiences with burnout, but I know there's probably somebody that's listening right now that's maybe
yeah,
like, I think I might be, you know,
hmm
in the middle of a season of burnout. So be
hmm
curious to hear your experience with that. And then
yeah,
maybe anything that was helpful for walking through that and kind of getting to the other
hmm
side.
yeah. Absolutely. A couple of different things come to mind when you ask. When I think of burnout, I do think of what I mentioned earlier, that season right when I graduated college, taking a nonprofit job in social services, really a job I just wasn't equipped to do, living full time as a caregiver for two younger males with developmental disabilities. And I lasted about 6 months and then quit and just hit this mentally low place. And I think it was because I didn't know or have healthy boundaries at the
Mm.
time. And so moving home, sort of just like letting myself sulk for a little bit, and then just doing a huge pivot, sort of stepping out of the nonprofit space and finding a real passion and a love for businesses, startups, even art making. And I think I just realized, like, I thought I needed to be a person who like saved the world.
Yeah.
And I just thought, oh, this is my personality. Like, I like to be a helper and I'm good at the, and so I bring that up because in my younger 20s, I would have thought like a person who was just an artist would be like selfish or something like,
Mm.
and I have obviously shifted that mindset and realized like, oh, we can, we all have a unique makeup and we all have unique skill sets. And I think when we are in our own lane and show up well and do the thing that lights us up, like that is enough. And even simply believing in our own hearts, like baseline, like I am enough. I
Mm.
think learning the truth in our own hearts that like we are simply enough really set my soul free. It's like I don't owe anything to anyone. And so releasing that expectation that I had to like, yes, save anyone or
Right.
was really freeing. Um, and and I would say the micro burnouts that have come in the last decade for me are like when I will make a decision out of sort of pride or ego and like sign up for like a big show. And those typically are an investment, they cost money, but I'll like bring my family along for this, like, no, guys, it's going to be great. And maybe it'll be a bust or just like an opportunity that sounds fun because I'm a little bit of a shiny object. Like, ooh, this could be cool. And
Right.
so I think the humbling thing for me is realizing, like, when you're married or when you've got a family, it's not only you that takes that tank, like it's the whole crew.
Mm.
And it's rough. And so those burnouts have been hard. I've learned from them. I sort of like those hard lessons. I'll be honest. Like I think they do shape us in big beautiful ways. But the older I get, you know, I'm seeing some patterns. I I feel like there's a really good book called Essentialism by Greg McCowan, and
Yes, I
he
haven't
talks
read it, but
about,
I heard about it.
oh good, I'm
Sounds
glad
really
you know.
awesome.
It's so good, and he's it's the whole book. He talks about just like eliminating what doesn't serve you, so you can get really clear on the few things that do.
Mm.
And I would say that's just something I now do. And I feel like I've just applied like a little bit of a funnel or a filter to my own life. When an opportunity comes up, I just send it through this filter. I actually want to create like a real document that I fill out
Yeah,
like a form.
that's so
And
smart. Yes.
I'm excited to do it because I just even want to like have my husband like work through this form with me so we can talk about like how does this serve our goals, and
Hmm.
if it doesn't, you know, then no. No, I'm just joking.
Uh-huh.
But I think we have to be really careful with our time and just really, yeah, I'm just in a season, especially as a mom. I just want to be really guarded with anything outside of my family that receives my energy.
Yeah, that speaks really deeply to me as well. I like to say yes to all the
Yeah.
things and,
Yep.
you know, all the opportunities and doors that open and things
Yeah.
and so it has been a journey and I'm still learning, like still figuring out where yeah, where is the motivation coming from? And
Yeah.
then is this, like you said, in the end, like moving in the direction that I'm
Yeah.
wanting to go and my husband and I are wanting to go, or is it
Yeah.
really a distraction in disguise, you know?
Sure,
So,
sure. And it's
yeah.
hard to decipher. And
Hmm.
even, you know, it's like there's that desire to be generous with ourselves. And I think when we can be generous with our time, that that is beautiful. And I think there's a place for that. So yeah, I celebrate the nuances with you because it's not easy, but
Yes.
um
Yes, that's well
yeah,
said. There, it's very nuanced for
it is.
sure.
Yes. Yeah. And
Yes.
sometimes I think for me, it's a little bit of like an intuition gut thing too. I just sit with things sometimes. I'm like, okay, how does this feel? How does my
Hmm.
body feel? Does this, so I don't know. I don't have any like clean cut. I'm still on the journey figuring it out myself, is I think what I'm trying to say.
Yes. Well, if you do come up with a form, feel free to send
Yeah,
a copy my
I
way.
will. I will.
I was like, that sounds incredible. Or
Yeah.
maybe I just need to think through, read the
Mm-hmm.
book, and like sort through my own filter as well, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But yes, I love that so much. And I would love to let you share just a little bit about the art that you are making and kind of
Yeah.
what your current mark making looks like today.
Yes. Yes. It is a little bit all over the place. I'll be honest. So even behind me is like this, like really fun, bright, happy mural.
Uh-huh.
Did it the other day on my wall a couple of weeks ago because I just felt like it. And I would say if someone scrolled my Instagram, you would get a pretty good feel. I'm happy to share that at the end, but
Yeah.
I would use words like whimsy, colorful, abstract, watercolor, and acrylic.
Cool.
So I do feel like I play with these themes of minimalism and maximalism. What it looks like for me right now, I am a part of two galleries, one local, a shop downtown called London Air here in Eureka Springs. My art is in a gallery in Bentonville, Arkansas called Art on the Square. And
Hmm.
through those places and through my website, I meet clients who would like custom commissions. So that typically means and looks like they've got a space in their living room or dining room or bedroom where they saw something of mine and they want like that look, but like on their wall in a specific size. And so I really like the problem solving.
Yeah.
That feels like a different lane for me where I get to be kind of strategic. And I work with my husband, Brent. He's my framer. and
Whoa,
I
that's
bring the
perfect.
proposals to him, and I'm like, hey, this is the size. What do you think? Here are pictures of their room. And I love that we get to work together. We feel like a design team because he weighs in on the woods that he has in stock, and he'll be like, "Ooh, yeah, like oak or maple would look so good." It's really
Yes.
fun. I trust and respect his eye. He's got a great design eye, and so we've been at this for, 5 to 10 years. So we've really gotten to play with some more ethereal styles where like the glass will show through, and, or I
Mm.
don't know, we've gotten to just play around with even the framing, and we both care about the details, and I've definitely gotten to fine tune that commission process too. But I love tiny things, but
Yeah.
then I like love working huge, and it would be my dream to like do a massive mural on a building, or so I feel like a
That'd
little
be
all
so
over
fun.
the
Yeah.
place. But watercolor is my main love. I even water down my acrylics sometimes and
Mhm.
manipulate acrylics to look more like watercolor. So I would say ethereal, movement, colorful, happy, yet calm is what my
Yes.
marks look like right now.
I love getting to hear more about, yeah, your current art and also like your process and just the
Thanks.
variety as well. And I think it's really neat to hear about the commission work. And yeah, I definitely will encourage people to check out your Instagram and like get in touch if
Fun.
they're interested in
Yes.
having a commissioned work. Yeah, but I can't believe time always flies with these.
Yes.
It always goes by so fast. But as we wrap up today, I wanted to just open up the floor. Is there anything that you feel like is on your heart right now that you would want to share with other artists?
Mm, I would just reiterate the message that you are invited to this table. I just think a creative heart lives in all of us. Even when I meet people who say, like, I'm not creative, that's not me, I don't buy it. I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
no. I would say, who were you as a kid? What are the spaces? What lit you up as a child? How would you spend your free time? I would invite you, yeah, to just think about those things and take some pressure off. And I would say consider, if you visual artists, um, I'd say consider like getting a sketchbook that would feel good to hold, and
Mm.
just dabbling. And I know that would look different for other artists. If you're a dancer, just put some music on that feels good. But free yourself from the pressure of posting and showing up to those digital spaces. Even gamify it. Like, I've thought about making a sketchbook where I write on the front, this is not for Instagram.
I like that.
Or,
Yes.
it's like we kind of just have to be radical, I think, sometimes in those fun ways. But yeah, so silence the noise and listen to that inner child is what I'd say.
Mm. Such good wisdom and definitely taking that to heart for myself as well.
Awesome.
Yeah, and a question that I love to ask just for fun at the end
Yeah.
here is what is one of your favorite things right now?
My lounge chair that I just got from Facebook Marketplace. It's
Yes.
bold. It's got purple flowers all over it, and I go there and I answer emails as I'm lounging, and yeah, I would say. And then in just a broader way, cultivating this space, this studio space. I call it the crow's nest.
Oh,
And
I
I'm
love
about
that.
to do a pretty big studio tour on my Instagram page soon. But
Awesome.
yeah, my studio space is my favorite.
Yes, so fun. And speaking of Instagram, would love to be able
Yeah.
to let people know where they can find
Yes.
you, connect with you and your work. And depending on when this comes out, maybe that studio tour will already be up there, or if not, maybe it will be coming soon.
Yes. Yes.
So, what is your Instagram handle, and then any other ways that people can reach you? Maybe like your website.
Yes. My website is shop.jordanhaleyart.com. I know that's a little long. In my Instagram page, you can link to that. But yeah, my Instagram is at Jordan Haley HALEY art. And I definitely toy with the idea of like doing a simple vlog or something. I'm not always the best about showing up to Instagram. Like I fantasize about doing like a little live watercolor class or something. So just know that that desire is there. I'm not sure what that looks like, but maybe this fall or winter that will blossom. So yeah.
Yes, that would
Yeah,
be
I'm
so
open
neat.
to feedback. I'm open to feedback.
Awesome. I love that. And I'll definitely share the links as well so people can
Awesome.
find those in the show notes. And yeah,
Awesome.
Jordan, this has just been such a gift to spend this time with you. And I love getting to know more about,
Likewise.
yeah, you and your heart and your passion for helping others like discover that creativity
Yeah.
within themselves. And so excited for what's to come. And hopefully I can
Thank
come stay in a
you.
treehouse one day.
Oh, that would be amazing. I would love to have you here. Even come experience the crow's nest too.
Yes,
This
that
has
would be
been a
awesome.
joy. Thank you, Rachel. I so appreciate this opportunity.
Aw,
My cheeks are like sore from smiling so big.
I know,
This has
me
been
too.
so fun.
Aw, thank you,
Yes.
Jordan.
Thank you for having
Awesome.
me.
Thank you all so much for listening to the Creative Impact Podcast. The music for the show was produced by Michael Cash. Until next time, remember that you were designed to create. You were made to inspire. Continue living with purpose and making an impact. I'll see you next time, friends.